Welcome to Piz Sequel Mao, David here, and a lot of people have been asking for a review of ProCamera, so here it is. Now, one of the first things that I noticed about ProCamera, and I seem to say this all the time these days, is just how many modes and features there are, both useful and not. But what I like, and I've not come across this before in an app like this, it's how you can tap here and then tap here to turn off the modes that you don't like or won't be using. And this is great for someone like me who likes everything to be minimalistic, streamlined and focused. And something else I've not seen before in an app of this kind is how you can rearrange the position of the modes as well. Now you'll find this level of customization and personalization throughout the app. You can even set how much or how little of the interface that you want to see. There's fully automatic, semi-automatic, manual. Oh, this is stills mode, by the way. Did I not mention? Sorry. Yeah, I've just jumped straight in. We're talking about stills mode. So anyway, so if this is your first advanced camera app or you're just getting into photography, you can start shooting and you can slowly add more functionality as you get more confident and learn. Or if you're a more advanced user, a more professional user, you can just dive straight in with all the bells and whistles turned on. So all of the things that you expect are here. You've got a live histogram. In fact, you've got 3 different styles of live histogram. You've got levels, clipping, focus and exposure reticles, manual controls, focus peaking, raw shooting. Well, most of the bells and whistles anyway. Because ProCamera puts a few tricks behind a subscription paywall it calls up. Now this isn't expensive, it's only like $5.49 per year, but it includes things that for me are just like, meh. I mean, I've already paid $8.99 for this thing. Do I want to then pay extra for automatic perspective correction or a private lightbox? No. I do want exposure bracketing though. I find that really useful. I mean, I do like to protect my highlights and shadows. So if I can get the app to change my settings for me in order to protect my highlights and shadows, then I do want it to do that. Its competition, ProCam 7 and Moment, for example, already have exposure bracketing built in, but the way ProCamera implements it, the interface is just really simple and really easy and clean to use. But if you want the app to create high dynamic range images for you from start to finish, then you may be interested in the dedicated HDR mode, which is an optional in-app purchase as well that's advertised as Vivid HDR, and it promises to be the best HDR on iOS. Now I've paid the $3.99 extra so you don't have to, so let's see if it's worth the upgrade. You get a ton of options and settings so you can set up your HDR exactly how you want it, although the app would prefer it if you stayed in full auto. It's constantly recommending that you stay in full auto. You also get a load of picture styles as well, like dramatic, vivid, natural and black and white. And it works as you'd expect. It takes between like 3 and 6 photos, although I think in the most recent update it can take up to like 10 photos and just blends them all together. And while it's doing this, you do need to keep your phone perfectly still, otherwise, well, you get this, which, yeah, that was my fault. Now, HDR itself, the term HDR, has become a bit of a buzz term over the last couple of years. And marketing folks have done a fantastic job of turning the term HDR into a synonym for better quality. But the truth is, while it can produce some good-looking photos, high dynamic range just isn't appropriate for all situations, and ProCamera's HDR is no different, even if it is apparently the best HDR on iOS. In some situations, yeah, it does look pretty good, but then in others it just looks like vomit. And with the way I like to shoot, I found it works best for me in well-lit outdoor urban environments at golden hour, which is oddly specific, I know, but that's just my experience. I've tried it in other situations, like in nature and indoors, and most of the time, for me, it just goes way over the top. But with all the various modes and settings, you can take control and tone down some of the HDRness. So if you leave it in full auto and it goes way over the top and produces that overly HDR look like this, you can just come in and be like, dude, whoa, okay, chill. Tap EB, dial in some manual settings and produce this instead. So is it worth the $3.99 on top of the $8.99 you've already paid? Well, for someone like me who likes the manual process of photography and enjoys shooting in RAW, no, even though I've paid for the upgrade to test it, I won't be using it again after this review. But if HDR is your thing, then you know what? Yeah, this is probably the best HDR on iOS, and you will find some value here, especially with all of the various options and settings. Plus, ProCamera's absolutely fantastic built-in editing suite, which I will get to later. Another in-app purchase is Lowlight Plus. Now this costs $2.99 and sits right next to the built-in Lowlight mode. So let's just jump right in, and for $2.99 there'd better be a difference. In this first scenario, we have a regular JPEG photo taken in the stills mode. Here is one taken with the built-in Lowlight mode, and here is one taken with Lowlight Plus. And the Lowlight Plus looks so much better. It's brighter and much cleaner. So you do thankfully appear to actually get something extra for your $2.99. Like all low light modes, they work by using longer exposures, and you can choose between a 1/4 of a second, an 1/8, a half, and a full second. And for those last two, a tripod is definitely recommended. Now, helping out the longer exposures are high ISOs, hence the large amount of noise that you typically see in a photo like this. But this is where Lowlight Plus comes in, as it takes multiple photos, combines them, and then applies really heavy noise reduction to produce the final result. Now let's move on to moving images, and as you'd expect from an app that costs $8.99, you have a lot of resolutions and frame rates to choose from, including 4K at 120 megabits per second, which looks really, really good, really high quality. My 2015 MacBook Pro absolutely hates it. I have to use proxy workflows and I have to wait for each clip to render before I do any editing on it whatsoever. But that's my problem, and more of the usual stuff you expect is here as well, like stabilization and audio levels. Now you can set the focus and the white balance manually, but those are the only manual controls that you get. So it doesn't tick everything on my video wish list, but what you do get instead of manual controls are focus and exposure reticles, which I found using those can be a pretty decent substitute in most situations for manual settings, because you can at least set your focus and your exposure and lock them in place. The importance of being able to lock your focus and exposure really can't be understated, because if you can't do it or don't do it, then this happens. And your video just goes from pro camera to amateur camera, just straight away, so at least you can avoid that. And for video, that's it. There are a couple of missing features like manual controls and focus peaking that you do get elsewhere, but there's definitely enough here for most people to make the videos that they want to make, including me. But the biggest issue I had with the video mode was a couple of failures to record. Now, it didn't turn out to be a big deal. It just happened on a couple of landscape shots that I could easily just do again. But if I was capturing something important, then I wouldn't trust it, I wouldn't use it. I would definitely go with ProCam 7, which has proven itself infallible when it comes to stability. Now, speaking of crashes, the stills mode has also crashed on me as well, but it's only done this once, way back in July when I first started testing out the app. Now, it did show up a little message on screen that said that my iPhone XR had probably run out of memory, which could very well be true, as the iPhone XR only has 2 GB of RAM. And as you can see from this screenshot, this happened way back on the 21st of July, and I'm recording this video on the 7th of September. And it hasn't happened since, after very, very thorough testing. Hence, this video has been so long in the making. So I am willing to give it the benefit of the doubt, although it was quite a severe crash. It caused me to restart my iPhone. Now, before I get to that fantastic editing suite I mentioned and my conclusion, there are a couple of other modes to mention, like portrait mode, which does what you expect, selfie mode, which is completely pointless as it is literally just a selfie camera with no other features and options, so you can just go in the stills mode and flip the camera around, so I don't know why that's there. There's Bothie, which is using both the front-facing and the rear-facing camera at the same time. So if you want to film something and your reaction to it at the same time, then that mode works absolutely fine. There's nothing else really to say there. It's fine. And then there is Scan, which, yes, it's useful, I suppose, but I don't know why it's here in this advanced camera app. It allows you to just scan barcodes in shops, and then you can go on Amazon or Google and compare the prices of things, which is something that I think I would have found useful maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I would definitely prefer not to have scan and selfie mode in the app, and for the price to come down $1 or £1 instead. Now, in all honesty, I have flip-flopped completely back and forth over this app so many times over the last couple of months. One minute I hated it, and then the next I thought it was pretty good, and then just back and forth. But now, after over a month and a half of constant use, I can say that ProCamera is quite remarkable how, thanks to its high level of functionality and customizability, it manages to appeal to lots of different photographers with different shooting styles and different levels of ability at the same time, seemingly without compromise. Now, ProCamera is also remarkable for what you can do after a photo is taken as well, because you have that fantastically comprehensive editing suite, which again has something for everyone. Whether it's a RAW file, JPEG, portrait, HDR, whatever it is, if you just want to slap on a filter, then you've got loads to choose from. And if you want more control, then all of the usual manual editing options are here as well, including, and I was very surprised to see, RGB curves, which is very cool. I also like how it keeps all of the different versions of my photos nicely organized with metadata and maps. Now, as comprehensive as this feature set is, it's still not enough to replace a dedicated photo editor because there's no proper workflow. You can't copy and paste edits, for example. So if you want to replicate those magical edits that you made to that photo, then ProCamera is just not set up to help you do that at all. So would I recommend ProCamera? Well, for $8.99, it's already the most expensive app amongst its competitors. And while I do like the level of customization and it is packed full of functionality, a lot of that functionality is in-app purchases, so you do have to pay extra on top of your $8.99. Plus, it's just hard to imagine someone out there, one minute they're shooting in RAW with full manual controls, and then the next they feel like switching to a full auto HDR JPEG. Hey, there might be people out there who want to do that. You might want to do that. And if you do, and ProCamera covers all of the types of photography that you want to do, then that's great. ProCamera is the app for you, and you will find good value in it. You will enjoy it. And for the rest of us, well, if you're just interested in the stills mode and video modes like I am, then there are better options out there, in all honesty, like ProCam 7 and the Moment app. But I do like how you can set up ProCamera exactly how you want and slowly add in functionality as you learn. So if you're a beginner and you find multifunctional camera apps quite intimidating, then I would definitely give this one a look. So my conclusion is, it's not for me, but it might be for you. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think, and if I've left anything out, anything at all, please feel free to ask me. And that is my review of ProCamera, and I'm so happy it is over. Can you see on my face how happy I look? This review, I've been working on it since July, and it has been like an Everest for me. It's like It just feels like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. So I'm looking forward to moving past this review because now I can finally focus on my comparison video. So for that video, I'm going to be comparing Halide, ProCam 7, the Moment app, and ProCamera. Those are like the big four. Those are the most popular, the most well-known camera apps. And this video is going to take some time to complete. It's not just going to be me just setting up a shot and then taking it with Halide, switching to Moment, taking it with Moment, switching to ProCam 7, you know, etc, etc. I think from some of the comments I've been getting, that's what people are expecting, but no, that's a terrible idea. That would make for the worst comparison. There'd be no value whatsoever in that video. Instead, what I'll be doing is